أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه أستعين في جميع الأمور رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. This meeting is about establishing SAMS Aligarh Muslim Tijarat University Climate Smart Campus Town in Garg Dairy Farm in Texas, Dallas, Texas.
Good day, Dr. Mirza.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Doctor.
And Mr. Susinski is on, and welcome, Professor Susinski. Can you hear us? We cannot hear you.
Hello. Just
Now
got my
we-
audio back. How are you?
Now we can-
Good to see you, my friend.
Same here, same here. So I will introduce you to Ambassador Henry Mokwenye.
Hello, Doctor. How are you? Very nice to meet you.
Fine. Thank you very much, Mr. William.
So both of you knows me, so I will not spend any time introducing myself. You guys can take a couple of minutes and introduce yourself. Then we can move forward with our main item of setting up our campus in Garg Dairy Farm.
Is Lloyd's going to be on as well? Yes.
Lloyd was planning to be here, but I don't know whether
Okay, good.
he'll be here.
Excellent.
But we can start the introduction, and then Lloyd can join us, and we can all,
Would you like, Ambassador? I am the founder and president of Energime University. We are a charitable organization that specializes in teaching and promoting sustainable economic development around the world. And essentially, that is everything that relates to food, water, waste, and energy, all the things that people need to survive, and creating an educational model that creates a common approach globally to how we solve these problems by empowering education to every corner of the world, making education a human right, making access to opportunity a human right, and connecting up all of the different elements that can make these wonderful projects take hold. Now, we concentrate quite a bit at this point for our own projects on sustainable food growth, aquaculture projects with fish farming, indoor agriculture, that sort of thing, because we see food as being the major issue as we go further into the 21st century. Right now, water is a huge issue. Energy is a big issue. Energy is going to be solved in the next 10 years. After energy is solved, water is easily solvable. Food, however, is reaching a critical point in terms of the collapse of our food chain. So we are creating projects in the United States right now, and hopefully soon abroad as well, that will be able to create tremendous quantities of highly nutritious food in concentrated community areas so that populations can become sustainable in terms of their food. We're not just about feeding people. We're about educating them. We want people to become smart members of our species as we develop the economies, as we create higher standards of living, as we create the pathway for every man, woman, and child to have a better and more productive life. We want it to be done in such a way where it promotes respect amongst neighbors and where that process is one that includes everyone in every corner of the world. Okay, big project that we're involved in. Our education platform, Sustainable Planet, we want to get into every school in the world by the end of the decade. That's a training platform to teach young people about how to work together to create a much more regenerative world, one that we manage, one that manages our resources, eliminates our negative impacts on the environment, and establishes a pathway for all these young people to start viewing the world as a single place and not 228 separated countries that compete over the remaining resources that are around. It's the best explanation I can do in 2.5 minutes, but thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. That's a wonderful introduction. Okay, my name is Ambassador Henry Mokwe Chike. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Cycler Relief International Limited, also the Honorable Minister for Kingdom of Atlantics. They're about to have their sovereignty in some couple of days. Now, we have been able to establish various entities in Nigeria. We are into humanitarian advocate. We advocate for educational programs in Nigeria. Yes, this idea came when an NGO came to Nigeria to honor one of our presidential candidates in Nigeria, and I nominated this person, and they gave him this recognition in U.S. government. And under the President Obama, I was given honor as ambassador in the U.S. Congress. Also Alex Padilla, you know Alex Padilla, he also confirmed me as in California. So we in 2014. So we have started this operation. We've been able to go to various countries to establish humanitarian advocates for education. So we have been advocating for entrepreneurs programs. In 2014, we incorporate Not Too Young to Run. Is a social program for Africans that want to go into social leadership in African regions. So I inaugurate this program for Africans, especially West Africa, that want to go into politics, into government. So we orient them about what is all about government, what's all about social programs. So we've been in various fields. We are into oil and gas, we are into agriculture, and we are into humanitarian program. So legally, I'm a lawyer. By profession, I'm Anthony. So I practice in Nigeria, Nigerian Bar Association by law. So we have various programs in Rector. Into we sell properties, we advocate for properties, we bring in we do international trade between various countries, both Nigerian and other countries that want to do investment program in various fields. We encourage our clients to go into that field. So that is a little bit I can tell you about myself. And my boss, my partner, Dr. Maiza, is a wonderful man. He's a man of wisdom, and he said, "Okay, good. We can partner with your institution to bring unveils and bring to African this program, which they will benefit a lot." So that's why I'm here today. So thank you very much, Mr. Williams.
Well, nice to be introduced to you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I guess we're waiting for Lloyd at this point then, Mufado, yes?
Yes, I think he was supposed to be here, but I think Lloyd knows what we all are planning to do. And I sort of challenged Lloyd that I introduce you to Energym University, and I would like you to actually get us a site. Okay, and I've worked a lot with him. I mean, to see if we can get a site in Markham where he resides. And
Right.
one of the potential site, which I'm working with, which we may get, is the York University site in Markham, because they are planning to build a new campus over there. And, so that will be an ideal site for us to really integrate all the technologies, which we are talking about. So that is one of the site I'm looking at, and, in Markham, and I'm working with the Queen's University and a lot of the, Lloyd, I mean, he introduces me to so many people that, it's very hard to keep track of everything.
He's good that way. He knows
It's
a lot
very
of
good.
people. Yeah, I know.
So I then try to, out of all the contacts which he has, provided us, I pick and choose from it, and then try to really, work with them. to see whether we can, synergize everybody and make sure that it's a win-win situation for everyone. So I'm looking for a site in Markham, and this York University site is a potential site. And what, the topic and what you can facilitate is this, Bill, that, maybe not just with York University, but with all global university campuses, especially in North America.
Right.
Because what we are able to do is now, we have, through courtesy of Ambassador Mokwenye, all the gold and diamond, concessions in Sierra Leone, we are getting it directly from the government. Okay, so there is no middleman in this whole situation, and that allows us to provide our pure gold coin at 5% discount. So 5% discount, meaning that your asset of all the universities can be enhanced by 5%. And the other thing which we are doing is this, that all the students from all university campuses, since we are talking about implementing a Startup New York program, that means that we will be setting up our office in the university campuses, which will be in the form of a Wheel of Life, Palm School Health Center, as well as our SAMS TQL Global Office. So we are present in all the university campuses, and we would like to really engage all the students. That's what we want to do.
Understood. Our strategy has been a little bit different in the sense that we are setting up projects. Right now, we have two major projects that we're working on in terms of on-the-ground projects, separate from what we're doing education-wise, but connected. One is in New Jersey, the other one is in New York. And we already have the land allocated in New Jersey on two different sites, one which is 32 acres and another 40-acre site, for two different sites in southern New Jersey, for a large fish and plant facility that will also function as our education center for the area. Now in New York, we're connected up very, very high up in the government, both federal and local, with politicians who are helping us find a site within the city of New York we can use as a demonstration site near JFK Airport to fly groups in from around the world, establish similar projects with groups that want to do these types of projects wherever we go. Now, our entire focus is on development. We basically go in for our services for education and job training for free. The government essentially gives us the property and then agrees to take most of our offtake, that which we're creating for local programs, whether that's for schools, hospitals, you name it. And that's been a wonderful program. The fact that we're doing so much for the community, we're invited in first. We have first opportunity practically every place that we go to do these types of projects. Now, our project partners are as good as it gets. Cornell University and elements of Cornell University are our equity partners with all of these projects. Cornell University is the top agriculture school in the world. It's been voted that way, I think, for the last 10 years, every single year. It does the most in terms of research and development. I think the last 10 heads of the Department of Agriculture have all been graduates of the Cornell program. 38 out of the 50 Farm Bureau leads in the 50 states in the United States are from Cornell. Mike Timmons, who is the most renowned and knowledgeable and experienced person in aquaculture in the world, is a personal friend of mine and an equity partner in all of our projects. We're also partnered with the University of Washington for algae development. And we've got connections with China, you name it. We're all over the place. But what I'm saying is this, in terms of the ability to create a project that is as fine a project as you can find anywhere in the world, with access to every single, the book that teaches aquaculture called Aquaculture, that's what the book's called. It's taught in 20 different countries. It's the gold standard for teaching that throughout the EU, China, the United States, was written by Mike Timmons. And because all of the major projects that go on, at least in the United States and North America, are by students of his, we have access to everybody. So there's not any technology that's being developed any protocol or application that relates to raising fish and plants indoors that we don't have access to. And because now after 10 years of companies going bankrupt and the technology maybe not being as advanced as it needed to be, there are projects out there that are becoming very lucrative and starting to make sense. And in the years ahead, as food becomes more difficult to get, as nutrition becomes a much, much bigger issue on a country by country basis, what we're doing is going to become essential. And you can already see this. Once you get outside of the EU and the United States, there are many countries right now that are suffering, that are already having problems with nutrition, having problems with adequate food. You know, the writing's on the wall. If we don't get this infrastructure out there in mass over this next decade, that by mid-century, we're going to see mass starvation on a level that we've never seen it before. And we're doing everything that we can to make sure that doesn't happen.
Let me unmute myself. So Bill, what in the 3 sites you mentioned, one is New York, 2 in New Jersey, and the site which we have identified, I think, few years back when it was difficult to work in Karachi is the site in Dallas, Texas. It's a 163-acre dairy farm. Okay, so these are the 4 sites in North America, in USA basically. And the 5th site I was mentioning was, which probably Lloyd can get it for us, is the York site in Markham. So these are the 5 sites. Now, in terms of, financial requirement, if we select, say, a business plan and present a business plan to, say, Ambassador Mokwenie, evaluate and generate the funds for the project, what is required, basically?
We're there. For us, we're waiting on final with the property in Egg Harbor, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. We are waiting to have a final negotiated contract with the city of Egg Harbor City as to the purchase of the property. Mm-hmm. We've already done a site plan for the property. Mm-hmm. We've already hired the site architects and the property developers. And the actual plan to put together the business plan for the site will be done by Atlantic Pacific Jade, which is the company that is owned by Mike Timmons and his partners. There are equity partners in it. They already have an ongoing operation in Doral, Florida. Okay. So for us to be able to put that together is pretty effortless. We've already put a retainer in for all of that. All the money's been paid. We haven't worked it through until we get the contract signed up with Egg Harbor City. But we could put that together literally in probably a week and a half to 2 weeks.
Correct.
And we're looking at the project as a multiple phase project. We have 32 acres to work with. Out of those 32 acres, with wetland setbacks and things like that, we probably have, I would think, a strong 27 acres that we can actually build on.
Okay.
The first part of phase 1 is going to be on 10 acres. It is a $15 million project, which to me is extremely modest. And in order for us to be able to do that in the state, we need to be able to leverage about 30% of the equity funding, the rest of the capital stack coming in the form of a loan. So for $4.5 million, we're up and running with our first project. We've created partnerships within the state with Atlantic Care, who is the healthcare provider for Southern New Jersey. They have 83 facilities. They will offtake a considerable amount of the food that we produce. The rest of the food we expect to be offtaken by the casinos in Atlantic City, because Egg Harbor City is right outside Atlantic City. We're also involved with several other programs for providing food as they have what are called food deserts in the United States. And this generally occurs in more impoverished and less affluent areas, and Atlantic City is one of those areas. So we want to start providing food for people within the community. And because the food that we're raising has no elements in it, such as heavy metals, pharmaceuticals, anything of pesticides, anything that would add a contaminant to the food. And because we're working with technology and a new protocol that's come out of Cornell that allows us to concentrate nutrients within the food chain, we'll both be feeding folks within the community with high nutrition food and using that food with the health district, Atlantic Care, to be able to treat patients therapeutically by way of their diet, so that patients that have issues with diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, addiction recovery, all these things are things that we think we can treat at least partially by changing their diet to a diet that is highly nutritious and devoid of any outside contaminants, really clean food, okay? And I know we were talking about this, Mufada, when you were talking about milk in Pakistan. This is a way of raising food. You know, we are what we eat, right?
Right.
So if we can raise food that's much cleaner, much healthier, and do it in a way where local communities can ensure that production to make sure that every member of the community is well fed, it's the base that we start prior to educating them. And as far as I'm concerned, you know how I feel about it. I'm not just about feeding people. If I can't educate them, if we can't empower them to be better citizens of the world, if we can't make them more productive, if we can't make them more in terms of contributing to the betterment of their community, I'm not interested. This is not about keeping people alive. This is about giving people a life and giving them a vision as to how they can improve their community and their world, right? Anyway,
so now 5 campuses. Okay, so you mentioned
I only mentioned the
5
two
million.
that we're focused on. I only told you the 2 we're focused on. We're also looking at Jamaica, Puerto Rico, West Virginia. There's a whole bunch of places that we have in play for projects. The 2 major projects that we're going for funding right now, that we're looking for funding to get projects off the ground, hopefully by the end of the year, are in those 2 places. We still have to locate land in Queens or near JFK. However, the people that we're partnered with sit on the board of directors for JFK Airport. They have $13 billion, out of which I think $500 million needs to go to community-based projects. So we have it in there. Senator Gregory Meeks, Congressman Senator Gregory Meeks is the head of the Finance Committee in the U.S. Congress, House of Representatives. He's one of our backers. So this is a very, very powerful politician, not just in New York, but nationally. So between him and the connections that we have in New York, which is the mayor, the commissioners, all that stuff, we are really lined up with everyone that we need and all the support that we need in order to be able to push forward politically the type of project that we want. Now, ultimately, what we plan to do, Mufado, is to create a project in a place called, hang on one second, Floyd Bennett Field. It is a deserted airport that used to be the only airport for New York City when they first started flying back in the 1920s and 30s, when it was dirigibles and biplanes, right?
Right.
As things got bigger, it was too small an airport, and they built John F. Kennedy Airport, JFK, right? With this old airport, which is on 1,000 acres of land, which is owned by the National Seashore in New York, we would need national support from the government in order to take over a substantial amount of that property. The idea is to go on there, get 200 or 300 acres and create the largest food production facility, indoor food production facility in the world.
Wonderful.
To be as a food security blanket for New York City and the Northeast. So, you know, we've got some interesting things going on right now, but some are longer planned, some are more immediate.
And I think this was the idea mentioned by Lloyd also, that all the dormant properties, you know, which people are not interested, they've already deserted it, you know, those are available. And I mean, those are available and the governments can provide it to us because it is not making any money for the government. And if they provide us with those sites, you know, directly from the government, we can generate the revenue for the government.
Well, Mufado, the beauty of putting a site at John F. Kennedy Airport is the fact that we can fly people in from around the world. And without even leaving the airport, we can take them through the entire facility, through the entire program of how we are educating the community, how we're training the community, how we're providing jobs that are expanding into the community. This is a project, I mean, the way we farm is going to change radically in the next 20 to 30 years. The idea of farming on large farms, you know, in the country is going to come to an end by mid-century, pretty much. Not completely, but pretty much. And most of food production is going to start happening on a local level. This is going to be very, very true for Nigeria as well, okay? A lot of resources right now, but those resources by mid-century will start running out. particularly as populations from other areas like the Sudan, from Niger, and areas like that where, where you have the encroachment of the desert, less rainfall. These are going to be places that are going to need more food. And of course, the population's booming in Nigeria. So in order to feed those people, a new approach needs to be taken to raising that food. We're creating that model. And if we can create one of those models at JFK or at New Jersey, we'll use that as a site to replicate every place else around the world. But we have to get one going first. That's the key. Once we get one project going, we know the rest of them. It will have 1,000 places that'll want these the next day.
So the site in the JFK has been identified, Bill?
Well, no, we have to find the site. You see, JFK is more complicated. Egg Harbor, we have the property, right?
Right.
Egg Harbor, we've identified the property. We're going to be able to put that project together. We're already working on it. We're spending money on it already. Okay. The JFK project, we have all of the political support that we need, but we still need to identify the land. The politics are much more complicated in New York City, much more complicated. And trying to find a large enough site to do the type of project that we want, you can imagine how difficult it is. Any large city in the world, property values are extraordinary. So in order for us to be able to do that, we really need a partnership with both the city of New York, the state of New York, and the federal government. And right now what we're doing is putting into place the political contacts that'll allow us to do that.
Okay, fine. And I think the New Jersey site, which we are talking about, and this dormant airport site, if we focus on those two sites, it will facilitate by demonstrating it to everybody that this is doable. We are not talking about something hypothetical.
The dormant airplane site is something in the future. There's a lot of complications because of the fact that it is owned mostly by the federal government as to how we would get access to acreage. So it would have to come as a direct request from the governor of New York State, and it would have to have political support inside the U.S. Congress in order for us to be able to do that. But if we're able to demonstrate our site and really states start to understand the importance of it, we'll be able to get sites like this throughout the United States. And then, at the same time, hopefully we're doing this as, in places overseas. Right now we're talking in Tanzania and Kenya, right? Obviously, right? And Tanzania, we're talking to Zanzibar. And, we've been approached by Thailand. We've been approached by the Philippines and New Zealand. So there are opportunities all over the place to do these types of projects, but we need to demonstrate it once, and we need people to understand it's not just about raising food. It's about raising human beings. It's about educating the community. It's about providing job training and skills training for the jobs that are going to be needed for this century. That's really what it comes down to.
Now, Bill, one of the things which we are doing via Chalfu International is an IATA conference is being organized in May next year, in Tunisia, where all the aviation people, Air Force, all the airlines, and all of those folks will be out there. Probably the leaders of all the world leaders will be out there also. That's what Ambassador Henry is trying to, invite everybody. So everybody should be there. And then we can over there, because we have got 1 year basically to demonstrate this model that, yes, this is a wonderful model that we can set up these facilities on the global airports, whereby all these requirements, of all the travelers, as well as all the people, visiting that country, the food requirements can be taken care of right at the airport, and we can provide everything, one-stop shop basically.
Well, as long as they have the property. I mean, the thing with the airports is you have, you can only build up so high because they don't let you, there's a cone that goes out. That's something. So it really depends on the value of the land. Because you need to find land that, I mean, the less expensive the land, the less expensive it is to construct, right? If you're talking about an urban environment, like we could never build what we like to build in a place like Hong Kong, right? Because everything is so concise. You have to build vertically at that point. It gets very expensive. That's why food's so expensive in places like Singapore and Tokyo and Hong Kong and so forth. But I think there's a tremendous opportunity to do this throughout Africa and most of Asia. Certainly Europe is already doing things like this. And, the sooner we can get to it, Mufadal, the better, right?
Okay.
And truthfully, anything that we do, you know, this is going to be a large partnership between all of us.
Correct.
Any project that we get going on our end is our project, you and me, our whole group.
Correct.
So we want to put everybody in a position that once we have been able to develop a model, to be able to recreate those models around the world.
Correct.
And again, you'll have the full support that we have in terms of technology, in terms of expertise, in terms of education and training. These are essential elements to scale, okay? Because
Correct.
ultimately, anyone can do a bad project, but to do the right project, you need the right team, and we have the right team in place.
Correct. And so I think just to confirm, for the New Jersey project, the first one, and the first 10 acres which we want to develop out of in that particular site, how much do you require? $5 million?
$5 million gets us there tomorrow. We're ready to build at $5 million.
Okay,
yes.
Wonderful.
We're building within. We're breaking ground by the end of the year with $5 million.
Okay, wonderful. So what I just want to get one commitment from you. That commitment is that I'm, with my projects with Dr. Paul Olivier and the business plan which he has developed for the Wheel of Life Farm School.
He's an amazing guy, isn't he?
Fantastic.
I want to know. I was the guy who introduced Paul Oliver to the group. He came to me from Rich Sapienza. Rich used to be the head of Brookhaven Laboratories.
Right.
I love Paul. Paul's one of the most incredibly intelligent guys I've ever met. And talk about a good guy. I mean, he really is wonderful.
I know. He's a fantastic. And I mean, I am really blessed that he's a very, very good friend of mine now. And whatever I ask him to do, you see, remember the 200-acre site which we were talking about in Karachi, right? In a $200 million project. I said, well, I'm not able to raise that $200 million. Can you just transform that into $1 million project? And he developed this Wheel of Life farm, very innovative guy.
He's amazingly generous
with
his time and his efforts, and he's smart. And truthfully, when it comes to development in the developing world, right? I'm not talking about New York City or, Singapore, but in the developing world, I can't think of anybody who is better on his level of dealing with basic energy, food conversion. He's a brilliant guy. Now, are you familiar with Virgil Perriman? Is that name familiar to you? Okay, you know Virgil. Virgil's another very good friend of mine. Virgil's got his own projects that are going on. I support him. I actually represented Virgil 2.5 years ago down at Georgia Tech in an energy competition, which we won, by the way, against I think 25 other teams. But we won that competition. But Virgil, Paul, there's some good people. There are other people that I know also that are going to be critical to this project that I think are great. I don't think you've been introduced to Joe Reve yet, or Roseanne Catalico. They're from the University of Washington, and brilliant as far as algae is concerned. And that's going to be a key project for us. We're going to get into insect protein. We're going to get into everything, but things that are necessary for the future. But I'm very excited about this.
So now, coming back to the question I have, for the Wheel of Life farm, we are offering a payback in 1,000 days to the investors. Okay, I'm generating the investment from the alumni of Aligarh Muslim University, where our leader, Sayyidina Ali Qadar Mufaddal Saifuddin, is the chancellor of the university. And we have introduced our projects to them. This is what we are interested in doing. And alumni support will be there. So we are creating this fund from all the alumni of Aligarh Muslim University. And we are promising them a payback that, okay, whatever you invest, whatever amount you invest, you start with 5,300 PGC, which is like 10,600 Canadian dollars, that pure gold coin situation, which I developed. So if they invest 5,300 PGC, our company assures that the payback will be in 1,000 days, which is like, 3.5 years.
3 years, yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
We can do that, right, with our project.
I mean, when you're talking about our type of fish farm project, we don't really get into production from a fish standpoint.
Right.
From the time that we break ground, it's probably 2.5 years before we're harvesting fish.
Okay.
Plants, on the other hand, we can build greenhouses in 6 months and be up in production.
Okay.
Now, here's the other thing, right? In the United States, they've legalized in many states the growth of marijuana, right?
Correct.
Marijuana for medicine and things like that. CBD oil,
Right.
which is used in pain prevention. It stops the growth of cancer cells, things like that. Because of the groups that we're working with in the United States are black and minority groups, right? We've been given the right to open up marijuana farms as a way to help subsidize what we do on an education level, right?
Okay.
This is a big deal. Marijuana farms, the ability to get a license to do that is a license to print money.
Correct.
Okay.
It is.
It's not what I'm necessarily interested in doing or raising. On the other hand, the ability to do it, and if we're doing it for medical marijuana, which is what we would be doing, that money that we'd raise from the medical marijuana would pay off all of the things that we needed to do in terms of education and training that we're providing free to the state and to the local communities.
Correct.
Because we don't want to charge for that. We want to provide education. We want to be a free resource for the communities.
Correct.
All right.
And I think that is our, based on your book also, which you have written, based on all the hard work which we have done, I want to make sure that education is free for everybody.
It has to be.
It has
education is a human right.
Human right. Everybody gets from preschool to PhD. Education is free. Okay. And then once people get educated, we transform them into entrepreneurs, and automatically the money will start flowing.
Right. The education, aside from what we give them technically in terms of knowledge, I think the most important aspect is that we teach our children that they're part of a global family.
Correct.
That I want kids from Nigeria and from Pakistan and the United States looking at each other as friends, not as different countries, not as different cultures, but respecting one another. You know, it should be as natural as talking to your next door neighbor. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And we need to do that with this generation.
Now, I've got
to work for me.
I have got 3 minutes to conclude this meeting, Bill, and I'm going to conclude with a very good news that Ambassador Mokbenye has arranged for us a 5,300 hectare site in Milindi, Kenya. Site is already available, has been given to us by the government. All right, so I don't have to pay any amount of money for the site. I'm just giving 5% of the ownership of this campus to them. So they are fine. And we are moving forward with integrating all technologies out there. Okay.
Very exciting.
Kenya is a wonderful, wonderful city, a wonderful country. And, so we are out there and, we are there. I mean, basically that project is there. The site is there. The president is going to be supporting us. And all the AMU, like I said, Aligarh Muslim University alumni, will be with us because Sayyidina Ali Qadar Mufaddal Saifuddin, SAMS basically will be the biggest, financier for that particular project.
Okay. Well,
So
listen, when we get into it, for the next step, just remember, the Sustainable Planet program that we're developing, I know everybody doesn't really understand it or get it. That's going to be the most important program we do because that program is the unifying, it's the spear tip to everything that we want to create because it will get us into every school, every community, and every household in the world in a way that unifies our approach. That's why it's important.
So now that program is constraint free, right? You don't need any support for that program.
No, we do need money for the program. We're moving ahead with it and we're doing what we can with what we've got.
But I think let's integrate. I think it will be easy.
That's another program that needs $5 million. But
no, that's what I'm saying.
We're getting closer.
Can you actually do both of them when we get this $5 million to you? 5.53 million.
If you got $5 million to me, we could figure out how to get both done because we would have enough money to leverage what we would need. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So I think the New Jersey site will be the site, the 10-acre site. We would like to maybe get an executive summary, from you. And I will allocate the $5 million. What I will do is this, that while I will allocate the $5 million over there, because we will be training all the Kenyan STEM graduates in New Jersey. Since we are building that site.
I love that idea.
Right?
Okay. We'll have to find housing for everybody, but I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Wonderful. So I think with that, we conclude that fine. We will finance that $5 million, $5.53 million. I will allocate for the New Jersey site. And that New Jersey site, we will try to put together with agility so that all these students, STEM graduates from Kenya, which I'm enrolling in my GEMBA program, will be trained in South Jersey.
That would be great. Mufado, it's been a pleasure. We need to have a much deeper conversation later on. Ambassador Henry, it's been a real pleasure being introduced to you, sir. And I look forward to further conversations.
And Ambassador Mokwenye is the ambassador of the Sierra Leone government. So he will be in USA also. So you will be able to interact very closely between you and him.
Looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to introducing you to my team. I have a lot of great people that we're working with now. I mean, really amazing people that are on our team now. And everybody will be happy to meet you. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Sosinski, for all the update.
You look very well, by the way. It's very nice to see you again.
And
okay?
I think that is the reason.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you, Doctor.